No, not for this.
Oh, okay.
About
Anything fun?
boat motor.
Oh, yeah, that is
Trying
fun.
to diagnose what's wrong with the boat motor that's down in Texas.
Oh, wow. Is this like work?
No, it's trying to help Quincy.
Well, you'd be the guy I would call if I had a boat motor issue.
Yeah, they took it out on the lake a couple days ago, and it overheated, and so trying to figure out what's wrong from a state away.
It must be tough. It's like doing a Zoom call, and you're like, we're going to perform surgery this way. Could you go ahead and pull out the nuts and bolts here? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and then trying to do it without an owner's manual or service manual makes it a little more difficult because you don't know the specs that it's supposed to be within range of and stuff. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, someone's got to do it.
Trying.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, we're almost technically, I think August is season 3 of our show. Did you know that?
Yeah, we're like, what is it, like 9-10 episodes away from 100?
I know. That is insane.
I know.
Most podcasts don't make it this long.
I mean,
here we are.
We're that cool.
It also means that we're getting close to a draft season recap podcast.
We're getting so close. So close.
So I'm throwing it down. Did I tell you the new role I'm going to do for the fantasy league that I'm doing? Oh, yeah, I did. I told you. Yeah, with the sub or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it should be good. There's not going to be a super flex league that I'm in this year. I was on the hype train for super flex for like 3 straight years. I even told you to do it, I think, in our home league. And then I was like, no, there's 5 good quarterbacks. Everybody else is just, okay. Or Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
Or you get a guy like Tua who has like incredible year last year besides the injuries. And then you're like, you have no other route. Well, what are you going to go pick up? Who's Mike White now? Who's the backup? You're going to pick him up. We saw what he did in New York.
And here's my thing about Tua is the dude learned how to fall this year. Just don't fall. You're going to fall. Like, you can't learn. Hold on. I remember this in jiu-jitsu, I think. I'm going to lay my head soft now. I'm going to turn my head this way now. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's going to help. I think if he gets hit in the head, he's going to have a concussion. Immediately, the Players Association is going to ask him to come out, and he's going to have to leave. Like, doctors are going to make him leave. So I don't think it matters.
You hope he stays healthy, but, man, it's tough, especially when you have the 2 confirmed concussions and then the one where they were like, oh, he was concussed. He was just, it was his back. His back.
Yeah, sure. My back hurts too.
Yeah.
Although I have entered a new phase in life where my whole life I've had one pillow at night, one small, thin pillow, like maybe this big. And I kept waking up with this. My neck was in so much pain, and I had no idea why. And all of a sudden, one day I fell asleep, and there's 2 pillows, like in a nap. And I didn't wake up with this sore neck, and I was like, oh, no. All right, so the next night I tried 2 pillows, and now I feel like I'm in a hospital bed because they're still flat, but it's 2 pillows instead of 1. And so I feel like I'm just sleeping like this.
Yeah.
Dude, it's awful.
Yeah, I've had to do the 2 pillow thing for a few years now. But like the way I set mine up is like I set them up against like diagonally a little bit. So I'm like, it's kind of like underneath my shoulder too and my head. So I'm kind of like a little more propped up instead of like, one way too forward or whatever. Yeah.
It's great. It's great to be at that point in life. What up, Colin? Welcome back, man.
Yeah. You hit the 30s. I mean, mine was a little before the 30s, but it happens.
It does happen, and it's clearly happening. Which means if it's almost it's almost your birthday again. We're getting close.
Yeah, we're about 2 months away now.
Yeah. Are you feeling ready, or do you care about birthdays anymore?
I honestly don't care. The only reason why I kind of care this year is that OU plays against Tulsa in Tulsa on my birthday this year.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to try. Tickets right now are crazy.
Yeah.
Price for like.
Well, that's because there's so many OU fans. What are the tickets like?
Yeah.
When you say crazy, like
200? No, that's not that crazy. But you're like sitting, and TU Stadium, not big. It was a hold like 25,000-30,000 people at that. And so
I
it's
think
like
it has to be 30 in D1.
Yeah, it's in the end zone, very top, and it's like 100 right now. I think they're like around $150 or something like that a piece.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah, and I know typically whenever you get closer to the game day, once season kind of starts, people start putting their tickets out there and they're more reasonable. So that's what I'm hoping around that time. Yeah, I said I'm hoping around that time they start dropping a little bit. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, you knew when they were coming to Tulsa, the tickets probably going to go fast and people are going to try to upsell them. And if not, I guess I'll find some Big 12 game to go to down in Norman.
I guess so. I mean, that would be fine.
Yeah, I guess.
You could wait till next year, save your money, and go to the Alabama OU game next year. Oh, come on, dude.
I can't imagine what those tickets are going to be like.
Dude, we almost had Georgia this year.
I know.
I'm like, yeah, thanks for the extra year. We appreciate it. Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
Colin, go ahead. Sorry.
We'll take that one leap year real quick.
Skip a little buff here because then we're going to take them on Tennessee. Do we play Georgia next year?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. That's the only one we don't play. We play on the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colin, we're definitely going to talk about it. I think fire sale, there was a key word. I mean, we don't have to leave in the podcast. I talk too much in the actual recorded podcast about the Cardinals. So I'm going to do it now in bonus content. So there was one key word that the one and only GM, outdated material-wise, all president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, said, and it was, we're going to focus on 2024. He did not say the future, so he said 2024. So I think what that means is you're not going to see Goldschmidt traded. I think that was a fun piece, but I don't think it happens. Arenado is definitely not going to happen. I think you'll see Flaherty probably, Jordan Montgomery, there's a good chance, and Jordan Hicks are the three names. And please, for any chance possible, can you trade Tyler O'Neill, Juan Yepez, and I'm fine with trading Tommy Edmond at this point because I think Brendan Donovan is just a better version of him that just can't play center field or shortstop. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Fine. You can trade Paul DeJong. I would be fine with it. They're not going to because they like Mason Wynn, not this year, but late next year, I think. And so I think there is a chance that the Cardinals are going to sell some pieces, but if this last series is in any indication why I should still some reason have some hope, even though they're 11.5 back, I don't. But they did win the series.
But you also got to think, 2 years ago, everyone thought trade deadline, they're sellers because they were so far out of the playoffs. It was kind of like they were now, just not. Yeah, they just weren't, what it was right now, bad. But everyone expected them to be sellers, and what did they do? Go out there and grab Lester, and they grabbed J.A. Happ. And
dude, put it together. Lester, I wish he would have come back for another year.
17 straight wins get you into the playoffs. So you never know, especially with this division. I mean, this division is so bad.
It's not as bad as the AL Central, man. Get off our back, okay?
Okay. We're talking about a division where the Cardinals are in last place, and so you expect other teams to have just ran away with this division, and no one wants to.
Dude, I mean, the Tigers are closer,
what the Reds
and they are just as bad. The Tigers are closer in their division, and they're just as bad.
Yeah, but the thing is you don't have their best team at the very bottom of that division right now.
Well, I know that's why
it should have been their best team. That's why I'm saying. I think it's so bad right now. I mean, what the Brewers, they just took 5 out of 6 from the Reds. Reds are on an absolute downfall of all downfalls in the last few weeks.
That All-Star break could not have come at a worse time for them. It killed all of their momentum, and here they are barely scoring runs. We had a podcast where I said, watch out for everyone's favorite Cincinnati Reds to cool off.
Yeah, we 0-4 since.
I don't want to do a victory lap yet, but I do feel like I was.
I think it's about you can start trotting to the to the line.
I'm doing that first base trot right now. I think it's going over.
yeah, you're kind of hopping open. Yeah. Okay, I think it's going. But I mean, what 0-4? They went on a historic 0-3 streak where they were. What was it? They said it was the first team in 130 years of baseball that went didn't score a single run and had 8 or fewer hits in a 3-game span.
Ugh.
And you got your big guy, you got the Ellie De La Cruz, who's batting. He's won for his last 13 with 6 strikeouts.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to get him is if he cannot keep the ball in play, that's what he has to do. But we talked about his high strikeout rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colin, do you want Flaherty or Montgomery? I would definitely want Montgomery. He said, I mean, obviously the Jays have been linked a little bit. Colin's in that Blue Jays territory. He wants to know. And the Yankees are last in their division. We'll get to it. I'm sorry. We're going to get into all these side trails if I'm not careful.
Let's say the Cardinals, they try to re-sign Montgomery before the season started. But,
yeah, I don't blame him for not. He's going to get more money. He is their best starter right now, besides Michaelis, maybe.
But I'm telling you, if you can, like that scenario I sent you, them possibly flipping Flaherty and Montgomery for Logan Gilbert,
I would take it.
Do it in a heartbeat because kid, 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to pitch a lot better, over the last month or so.
Flaherty's 27.
Yeah, but Flaherty has the injuries.
I know.
Injuries, yeah, and that will turn you off from a guy who's just now, I think, really starting to hit his MLB priming. We saw what he did first half of last year. If he can replicate, somewhat close to that, over a full season, you got you a guy that is a front of the line rotation guy, and for 2 pieces that you aren't going to re-sign after this year, more likely. Yeah.
Well, obviously, my biggest worry about Flaherty was back in 2019 when he was doing real well. He said, "Mamba mentality, that's me," and I'm like, "You shouldn't say it. If you say it, you don't have it." And then he got hurt, and yeah, I don't know. I think they'll definitely get traded. There are some teams. I think Ohtani, if they don't win a couple of series in a row, get hot, he's going to be on the way out. And we think. Here's the thing. I don't know that where he ends up getting traded to is where he ends up re-signing.
I have doubts if they trade him. Just because
it has to be a massive deal. But I think we saw it with Juan Soto last year, and I know he's way better than Juan Soto, but we saw that deal.
But there is a different caveat this year, though. I mean, Lee Soto is under contract for a year and a half. Ohtani's only under contract for half a year, and so are you as a team willing to trade away your farm for a rental that, especially say if you're like the Orioles, I know they've been linked to them, the Tampa Bay Rays are kicking the tires on them. These teams that realistically don't have a shot at re-signing him, are you willing to trade away your farm system for one guy for a half a year? If you get a World Series, you get a World Series, awesome. But do you look at the Orioles and go, okay, they're Ohtani away from winning the World Series?
No, they're already there.
No, that pitching, no. But and that was the thing. The trades that they were talking about with the Orioles, they were having to trade Grayson Rodriguez, they were having to trade DL Hall. Jackson Holiday was, supposedly going to be in that.
Jackson Holiday.
Yeah,
unless he's
Colton Cowser. And that's what I'm saying. So I don't know if the deals will be as high as unless he's going to a team that already has basically a handshake agreement saying we're having an extension ready. Let's shake on it. We'll trade away our farm system, and you'll be here for the next 6 to 7 years.
Yankees, Dodgers, possibly
Giants.
I think the Giants are all but we've seen the Giants strike out too much. That right now, as much as they may say they're in the running, I would, if it was a toss up between the Mariners and the Giants, he's choosing Mariners. There's going to be that tie to Seattle way more than there is San Francisco.
And the trade pieces too. For what you're getting from the Giants, you've got Harrison, who is a solid, probably one of the top left-handed pitcher prospects in baseball, and that's about it when it comes to the Giants farm system. And then you've got the Mariners. They have better pieces. More than likely, Logan Gilbert or George Kirby, maybe both of them end up in that trade.
Yeah.
And do you really think they're going to trade within the division? Probably not.
No, I wouldn't.
But they're saying that Angels owner won't make a trade with the Dodgers because he hates the Dodgers. So
you can't trade with the Dodgers either. That's why I think I think he still ends up in Los Angeles next year as a Dodger. But I think the trade, it's like Cardinals Cubs. You're just not going to trade because both teams are going to want to absolutely abolish the other one in the trade and win it on paper, in the media. And so you just can't get a trade done that way.
See, but the thing is like you're going to trade him. You're the second fiddle in LA, even though they're not in LA. Yeah. No matter what you do, and so say the Dodgers have a handshake agreement with Ohtani where he's willing to sign an extension, and they offer you their top 5 prospects. You're really going to say no because it's the Dodgers?
They should do it, and then they should turn around and trade Mike Trout.
Yeah, and so do I think it happens? No, I really think that owner is that dumb that he will hold on to his pride, and Ohtani will not get traded before the trade deadline and lose him for nothing now, except for maybe a compensatory pick next year. Yeah, is that really worth it? Compensatory pick or 4 or 5 prospects that you could have? No, and so.
And the other part about it in the chat was what's that conversation going to look like with his contract? How much does he get paid? Dude, it's not going to be enough unless it's like 600-700 million. Then I don't think it's enough. You put it in the chat 500, Colin, and I think that's a good number. That's where most people are starting. But he's 2 players, and so you think, okay, well, what? And he's one, and not like he's a middle of the rotation starter, and then he's a good bat. No, he is leading the league in home runs. He's torching the ball. He can still run for speed. He can be in the lineup pretty much every day. And then when he pitches, he can have a K per 9 that's well over. I mean, that's over 10 easy. So you just look at this guy. He's
sitting at 11.9 right now.
Yeah, he's just so good, and he's top tier at both of them. Then you got to pay him like top tier. I don't know that he gets the biggest. I think we might be past those 10, 11-year contracts for the most part. But if he got one, would any of us be surprised?
No. I really believe 600 is going to be the mark. I think that it is a very realistic possibility that we see. I think we do see the biggest contract in sports history.
Yeah,
happen because, like you said, he's arguably the best hitter in baseball, and then top 15, top 20 pitcher. Depending on which Ohtani you're getting. Last few starts, it kind of inflated his ERA, and take those 2 starts away, and he's around a 2.9 ERA, and then 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's tough to not argue that he deserves it. I mean, he absolutely 100% deserves to be the highest paid player in baseball.
Oh, yeah. And hear me out on this trade package. Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, Jordan Montgomery, and Jack Flaherty. You can have those 4, and we will sign and trade for this guy, Ohtani. And look at that. You got your left-handed DH. Okay, we don't need you anymore, Gorman. That's fine. We'll even throw in a kicker if they feel like they're like, nah, what more? Tommy Edman. There you go. All this MLB talent, and then we'll have the ace. That'll be fine. Call up John Lester. Listen, we need another body who can get some innings.
John Lester. I don't know if Lester's the guy anymore.
I think if he saw Ohtani, and Ohtani's not going to the Midwest. What are you even talking about here?
Yeah, and that's what people are like. Oh, if you're the Giants, you're the Yankees, the Mets, the Rays, these teams trade for him. And I'm like, I don't think that there's any way he resigns with you. So are you willing to part with guys that are potential future people if you ain't going to get them next year? And especially, I know they've talked like the Mets. I think the Mets probably would have a better shot than any of the other teams on the East Coast because of his relationship with Kodai Senga and them being able to be part of the Mets, system together. But right now, you're the Mets. Yeah, you're not buyers at this point in the season. You just lost 2 or 3 to the Dodgers, and you won the 3rd one on a walk-off hit. So I mean, you're not competing. You're not going to make the playoffs. I think their chances to make playoffs somewhere around 5% right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, part of that's just the division race is out of reach.
I don't know if there's a team willing to part with enough with it being just a rental.
Yeah.
To sway him to make the deal, just because I think his pride is that high.
Well, let's go ahead and start the pod. So that way we'll hit some record on some of this information. Other people can also hear that are going to be downloaded. And then we can get over some of the possible destinations of where we think so. Because there's some that have been mentioned just a little bit. And in the chat, Colin mentioned, it said he wants to win. And I think that's a key part, but we'll talk about that as we get to it. Feel like you're ready?
Yep, we're ready.
All right. We got 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the one and only W Sports Podcast, live every Monday night over on YouTube. If you didn't know, we already got 20 minutes of bonus content where you can learn all about the one, the only, our co-host, our co-host, Tubby, and what he is really knowledgeable at besides sports. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to go to YouTube to find out.
Welcome it's a little secret. You got to check out the extra 20 minutes just to know. I mean, I guess if you know me, you know, but if you don't.
If you don't, you don't. And I will say this, you don't even got to listen to the full 20 minutes. You're probably going to find out pretty quick. But then stay for the 20 because it was good content.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you like Shohei Ohtani content.
That's true. We did get quite a bit of Shohei Ohtani. And luckily for those who are like, well, I don't have a chance yet. I still want to talk a little Shohei. We will have additional Shohei content because we got to. He's the best player in baseball. Trade deadline is coming down the pipe. So we're going to get to it. We got the chat going off right now. It said we want Ohtani in Canada. We know that Toronto is representing on the W Sports Podcast today. Look at this going.
Yeah, I don't know if Canada has much of a shot. I mean,
just give him Alec Manoah.
I don't think that does it, but that's somewhat of a start.
A 1-for-1 deal.
1-for-1 deal, yeah. Yeah, that probably don't swing it, but
yeah.
You can always hope.
You can always hope. I'm holding out hope with the Cardinals, and I know for a fact it won't happen. I knew for a fact we were going to get Aaron Judge, and I still had hope. You knew it, yeah. So if any of y'all followed us on social media, any of our spots, either way, is Instagram or what is the new thing called?
Threads,
Facebook. If you're following our podcast on YouTube, then you would have seen that, yes, we had one of our own very own fans, producer of the show, at the Big 12 Media Days. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get a little bit into the SEC Media Days, but as it's coming up this week as well. Did you know that the MAC Media Days are this week too?
No, I had no idea.
All right. Well, so can you guess where they're at? Again, MAC, Mid-America Conference. So you got to think.
Akron.
Ooh, that's a really good guess. Last year they were in Cleveland.
Ooh.
So this year they're not, but they're very, very close to Cleveland. And no, it's not Cincinnati. Because I think that's everyone's next guess. When you say Ohio, Cleveland, Akron.
Columbus, Ohio.
I see. There you go. No, not quite. It is Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Detroit basketball. That's what it makes me think of. But that's where it's at this year. It's nowhere near the same setup as it is like for the Big 12 and SEC. I don't know if you listen to the content of follow-up of any other podcasts. I listen to lots of sports podcasts. I listened to one about the Sooners, and they talked about how TCU, Iowa State, and all these other schools in the Big 12 right now had one reporter, one media member to do those conversations outside of Texas and Oklahoma. So my fear is that next year, those Big 12 Media Days look a lot closer to a group of five than it does a Power Five.
Yeah, probably.
So it's kind of scary. I do think that the Big 12, once they leave, they're going to have a gap year or two, and they're going to have to make a move or two to go get a Utah, or they can say Arizona State. I don't think they need those. I think you need Colorado, you need Utah. Even though you have BYU, go get Utah, and if you can sneak in Oregon, great.
Yeah, I think Colorado and Utah should be the first two teams they call because, like I said, one, you automatically have a big rivalry that you are. I mean, because this is something I didn't think about at the Big 12. When Oklahoma and Texas leave, you take the two biggest rivalries with you, and Bedlam and the Red River. So now
Bedlam is like one of the oldest ones, period. And so we'll get to that in a second. Go ahead. Now what?
So now you got to look at who is the oldest rivalry after that, and it's Kansas State. Are we really getting up on Saturday for Kansas State if you're not from Kansas?
Welcome to College Game Day. We're here in Manhattan, Kansas.
And so if you bring in Utah, BYU and Utah, people don't know that rivalry is very, very, very heated.
Yeah.
They do not like each other. Yeah, so you automatically bring that one in. and kind of help that way. And then you're bringing in a team that has Deion Sanders as the head coach, so you're automatically going to bring in people just because of that.
You're going to be bringing a winner. Just think of the media. They might have had more media than Texas and Oklahoma. Colorado, I don't know when Pac-12 is, but I'd be interested to see what that media day looks like now.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be up there because, like you said, he's going to bring recognition no matter what because it is Deion Sanders.
Yeah, it is. It's Coach Prime. It's Coach Prime. So anyway, Big 12 Media Day. Again, a lot of it's like, does it even matter what we're talking about? But it's cool to be able to at least see the focus for some of these teams and where their mindset is. Is it still focused on last year's success or failures, or are they focused on, hey, our team is ready to go? And Mike Gundy and OSU always making noise, especially when things aren't going well, and things are not going well right now at OSU. So he's got to be talking, and he is talking and said Bedlam is officially dead, and it's Oklahoma's choice. It was their decision to kill it.
Yeah, it was pretty much saying, they left when they left for the SEC, they killed Bedlam. But I'm like, that probably is somewhat true. But the fact that you guys aren't taking any of the blame, going, you can find a way to add them to the schedule. And that's what Heather Dinich on ESPN, she's like, for them to try to throw Oklahoma under the bus, it's all their fault. If you have a good president and a good athletic director, they'll find a way. And so she's like, obviously you guys aren't trying to find a way. And that's been my take the whole time, is they don't want to, because they know if they do, every year for was basically 11 years maybe or so, they have a chance at winning again. And so they're automatically going to end up with a loss no matter what on that schedule, just based off of history. I mean, you look at the head-to-head matchups, it was at 90-something to 18 and
all time.
11.
It's not really a rivalry. It's more just in-state,
Yeah, and so you're looking at, every 10, 11 years, you maybe get one win. They don't want to start the season immediately going, okay, well, there's probably an L here to start our season. And I mean, do I blame them? No. Do I really care? I mean, I dislike OSU a lot, but it really isn't a rivalry because there's not much of a competition most of the time.
Mike Gundy's 3-15 against Oklahoma since he took over the spot. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. And part of that's because they've had some of their best success with him as a head coach, regardless of, what our feelings is on Bedlam or not. But let's just look at another conference. One of them has an SEC team that plays an 8-game schedule, and one of them has a non-SEC 8-game schedule that's not in the SEC, and they're in-state rivalry. South Carolina, Clemson, boom. They make it work every single year. They get it done. Florida State, boom, they get it done. This can get done if teams want it to get done. The reality is I don't think that these teams at this point want to get done. And OU doesn't have a whole lot of reason to make it happen because guess what? They're, like you said, 90-something and like teen-something in this record. And so why would I risk this when I could schedule a different team if I wanted to, whether it be an Akron Zips or something weird like that, a classic SEC move for that extra game in the non-conference.
Yeah, and so, I think it's probably part of both. And Oklahoma moving to the SEC, it hurts it because, they're not in conference anymore. So they're not going to play. And then now, even with the new rules, OSU weren't guaranteed to play each other every single year, even if with the new teams and all that, the expansion, OSU would be guaranteed to play each other every single year.
Yeah.
So,
this is why I like divisions. I know that people are like, no, divisions are done because then you get Purdue versus Michigan in the Big Ten championship game and one team has 4 losses. I don't care. Win your division if you don't like it, okay? Give a team like Purdue a chance, or an Oklahoma State a chance to have we won the regular season. Yeah, we're going to New Year's Six bowl game with 4 losses because to me, and we talked about this last year right before bowl season, like you're like, I liked it. At the time, at least, I think you were leaning the other way. But I like the recruiting aspect of it when we're going into a time period in college football history where I believe that we're going to see the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, but there'll be more of the poor at least. So there'll be some, comparison just across the board for that.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not too big on the divisions. Like, I don't want to see a Purdue playing Big Ten championship game because granted, you want to see them get their chance, but the chance isn't going to. The odds of them winning it are so small that I'd much rather see Ohio State, Michigan play again, just because for that conference, because there's not really a whole lot to get excited about when Big Ten besides Ohio State and Michigan.
No, man, I already saw it. Give me something new. I want to have that last Saturday where I'm like, go Purdue, let's go. I want them to win. Oh, Indiana's playing? Great, let's go. Go get that championship. I want that.
I don't think even people in Indiana want to watch Indiana or Purdue play.
I think Purdue might. I don't know about Indiana's football team, but you're probably right about that. They're like, is it basketball season? But I do think that Purdue, they like their football team. They've had a successful couple of years in a row here.
Yeah, I want to see the two best teams play against each other.
They did last week, and guess what? 1-1, 1 loss. Now we're moving on.
But so you rather watch Purdue play, or say Rutgers somehow makes it? You rather watch Rutgers play?
No. I want to see Tulia Tagovailoa get a Big Ten championship, upset, and completely mess up the playoff. Yeah, absolutely, I want to see that.
No.
That's what college football is all about. This is why when you get the college football like video game, you go and pick a non-Power 5 team and you go and upset all the big guys. That's what it's about. You don't go get the game and go beat OU all the time. That's boring. You get all the recruits.
There's a difference between make-believe and real life.
But I want real life to be chaotic. Remember when Johnny Manziel beat Alabama? That was incredible, right? We loved that day. And then
but they beat him in the regular season. They didn't beat him in the conference championship.
I know, but
game.
if that would have been the conference championship, wouldn't that have been incredible?
But it wouldn't have been because they weren't good enough to make it.
But if you won your division and then there's two divisions, division winner plays each other, then you are good enough.
But they weren't. They lost their division.
But Purdue was in the championship because they won their division.
Because that division was so much. If you evenly spread out the divisions, it makes it much better. Instead of saying, okay, well, we got the 4 toughest teams on one side, then we got the maybe the 5th or 6th best team, and then the bottom 4 teams on the other side. That's not exciting.
It is
because so you're going to say Nebraska would have been in the Big Ten championship game last year with that team.
4-8, but yes, you're.
And they had a shot at the end.
They did not have a chance.
What was Purdue's record? What were they? 6-4? 8-4. So they were 7-4. So they were only a couple of games out of first place.
But they didn't actually have a chance within the last couple of weeks. I mean, what?
Yeah, they did.
No,
If you take 2 losses and then you make them wins, and 2 losses 2 wins that were for Purdue and make them losses. That's how close they were. They were 2 games.
I'm saying Purdue's football record last year towards the end of the season is what I'm talking about. I don't believe that. What was their? Let me not put my foot in my mouth. They were at 8-5. Excuse me, not 8. Where were they?
So you can't even win your bowl game. No, I'm kidding.
They did win their bowl game. You're right. But they played LSU, so they got stomped in the Cheez-It Bowl. What was it? Yeah, they beat Indiana. They were on a win streak at the end. They won 3 games in a row. So I feel like Purdue.
Who were the 3 games?
Indiana, at Indiana, Northwestern, who was terrible, and Illinois, who at the time was number 21 in the country.
And that was Illinois was coming off the big loss to Michigan.
Yes, that was. I'm just saying, they did. They made it.
I'm just saying that you put them on the other side of that bracket in the division, they ain't anywhere close.
I know, that's fair.
That's what I'm saying. If you evenly spread out the divisions, it makes it more competitive. At least maybe we can see the best 2 teams play against each other. But the fact that you have the worst, almost the worst teams on the one side makes it so much easier for a bad team.
You're going to see the
they don't have divisions
Nebraska
anymore,
come back. Oh, that's true. So I guess otherwise I would have been correct in 3 years.
Yeah. They next year they're ending the divisions kind of like the SEC's doing.
All right. Any other big news that you wanted to hit on? I mean, there's a couple talking points I think we had from the Big 12 media days, but what was the next thing for you?
So did you hear the whole Venables thing?
I did about Coach Prime.
Yeah.
My boy? No.
Yeah,
what did he say?
He took a shot at Coach Prime.
Boo.
So the topic came up about transfers and how you build up a program, and he said, well, unlike Coach Prime, I gave my guys a 1-year grace period to try to figure things out, and to meet my standards and get to where I needed, I wanted them to be.
I got something to say. I'll wait.
And Coach Prime didn't take, he didn't like that. He's like, you were handed the keys to a Ferrari. I was handed the keys to a wrecked car, stuff like that.
It's true.
But was it though? I mean, Oklahoma lost 30. No, you're telling me that team that you're telling me that team that he took over when losing the Heisman Trophy quarterback, losing 30-something scholarship athletes, was taking over a Ferrari?
No, you're right. It's definitely not a Ferrari. Prime was wrong about that. Here's what it was. This was Brent Venables took over this car that was sold at a dealership like CarMax, right? And it had been totaled out, but it had been repaired. They put a nice paint job over it, and it looks brand new. And then you're like, okay, but it actually needs some work. Like the engine still hasn't been touched. All you did was touch the body. I need to replace the engine and the transmission. We're gonna get an oil change, do all this stuff, and next year it's gonna be running smooth. That's what he got, right? So at least the bones, like it looked pretty because you still look pretty. Colorado was 1-11. This team was so stupid bad. And then they had terrible habits. So not only did the body of the car look bad, but also the engine was bad. So he did have a worse hand dealt. But he's in the Pac-12. It's going to be easier for him to win this thing out, especially with two teams leaving. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid for both Brent Venables and for Coach Prime.
See, my thing is, but I get what he's saying is that these kids were given scholarships to go play there, and you as a coach are supposed to be better than the other guy that came in. That was there, right? They brought you in. You should be better head coach. So why? And it's not like they were, just terrible, recruits. You as a coach should be able to coach them up to what their potential should be, right? So you just basically going in, and this is what gets me is the way he went about it. I think was absolutely horrible and made me think way less of him because you did it so publicly on screen, going, okay, well, you might as well enter the transfer portal because basically I don't want you. Yeah. I think was absolutely horrible, and that's why I cannot stand the guy. Is the way that you handle yourself, and so say that was your kid. He walks in there. Your kid earned that scholarship to go play there, and he walks in and he tells your kid, okay, you guys are so bad last year. How do you know it wasn't the coaching? The coaching was so bad that
I think it was a lot of the coaching.
Okay, so you go in there and you tell that kid that had worked his whole life for that opportunity that you might as well go into the transfer portal because I'm not even going to give you an ounce of chance to prove yourself to me. I think is absolutely horrible way to handle things, and that's why I think culture-wise it doesn't work out because you already established a culture of disrespect towards those kids and what they had achieved through their life to get to that point.
I 100% see the viewpoint that you have. I 100% understand where you're coming from and why, it makes all sense. I'm tracking what you're saying. My perspective of the same scenario is a little different because I feel like it's almost like a test. Like if my coach comes at me like this and says that, I'm like, well, if I'm going to just tuck tail and run, that means that he didn't, that for Coach Prime, it's like, well, I didn't want him anyway. If he's going to tuck tail and run after this and this, I want someone who's going to put some grit into this and grind through it and prove that they belong on this team because this team's it's going to mean something to put that Colorado Buffalo jersey on, that helmet on. Whereas 1-11 and maybe the coaching scheme and the tendencies that they allowed in the past, it didn't really mean as much. Like, hey, I got a scholarship. This is cool. I'm playing college football, Power 5, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's going to make that mean something, so he wants you to earn it. Now, I understand, maybe it's a little aggressive. The media part of it sucks because it's Coach Prime. The media just follows him, and he knows it. But even if there was no media there, I think it would have been better just to have known, hey, he challenged us from the get-go because he saw what we did on the field, but also more importantly, what was done off the field. The same stuff. I don't know if you've heard any of the stories that they talked about OU's football program under Lincoln Riley and just the lackluster, the lack of attention to detail, the little things that you don't think matter and how much they really matter to championship teams. That's the stuff that Venables also had to correct last year, but we don't know about it because we only hear it because he's not a media guy. The media is not in the locker room the same way, but there literally is like a channel for it for Coach Prime.
But it's not the same thing though, because
I know
Venables gave them the grace period. He gave 100%. Them the opportunity to prove themselves to him, and also going off it, he immediately pulled scholarships from kids that were already there, because your scholarship. I don't know if you know. They have to sign it every single season. Mm-hmm. It's not just an automatically guaranteed thing, which I get. But you basically walked in there and took kids' scholarships and said, "Okay, get out of my building. I'm not going to give you a chance."
Well, if the dude had terrible character, if he wasn't a good fit for the program, if you came into Army's locker room or Navy or triple option team, Georgia Tech at the time, and you saw their quarterback room, you're like, well, this guy is not going to be able to run my spread offense system. I mean, this is really not a great example, but then you would take away that. You'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the transfer report and give me a different quarterback because I need a different quarterback to run the system. I agree that it could have been handled differently, but I also understand the methods. What he did was he just shot like a bunch of adrenaline into the arm of someone who was basically laying on the ground dead at 1-11, and he said either figure it out or get out.
He didn't give him that.
Venables
he said, get out. He didn't even say figure it out. He said, get out.
The figure it out was in between the words.
No, it wasn't. He literally pulled the scholarship.
Look for it.
He pulled the scholarships before he even went in there.
Earn that scholarship, just like you got to earn that jersey number. I'm just saying we're going to be different. You didn't give
him a chance to earn it. You basically took the scholarship and said, okay, leave. I don't want you. You're not wanted here. Go. As pretty much exactly what he said to them. And I think that you had to have it wasn't accidentally that the cameras are there. He did it on purpose because he has to have that type of intention around him to make, I don't know, try to get his point across. I don't know, but I think it's absolutely horrible way to go about it. And I think that you automatically disrespected those guys and you already hurt any culture that you try to build because of the way you handle things.
Dude, I can't wait. I want to look at what 4 years.
Then on top, like then one thing also is if he's supposed to be this great, recruiter and stuff like that, why are they sitting in the 60s in recruiting and only have like 8 guys committed?
Yeah, I know. Hey, we're gonna have to see. Oh, this is not gonna be an overnight thing. And to the credit of Brent Venables and his system and the way he does things, he's done this before at Clemson. And do you know what year was the turning point for the defense and things to start to click? 2. Because he said this in media days is that, hey, it's like an 18-month process, like for people to get up to speed, to understand the system, to know where they fit in it, to know what the communication looks like. So I think for your credit to what Brent Venables' method was and his style and delivery, it worked out well for him at Clemson, and it looks like it could work out well this year. The OU is not expected to win the Big 12 this year. It's actually Texas. Texas is supposed to win this league, not TCU, not K-State. No one, people say that Kansas is going to be an exciting team, all this stuff, but they're picking Texas. So how about and so with that being said, OU's won, I think, like half of the Big 12 championship since it became 12 teams. Mm-hmm. Texas hasn't won. When was the last time Texas won?
It was like 2010, 2011, something like that.
Okay, so it was McCoy era, right?
Yeah, it was Colt McCoy's last year.
Yeah,
they went to the national championship game against Alabama.
Concussion. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the chat? You see that?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. This used to be every day at school when we were in high school. This is great. So I look at this, and the Big 12 commissioner doesn't believe that OU and Texas carried the Big 12. What a joke. You look at I told you how many media members were there for any other team besides OU and Texas, and I bet you that number is close to 15 total. Like, it's just –
I'll give him somewhat of a pass because it's a half-truth. OU and Texas didn't.
Okay.
OU did. Texas over the last 15, 20 years really hasn't done a whole lot to, I think, help burden the load that Oklahoma has had to carry. But I get, but recognition-wise, yeah, Oklahoma and Texas are the only reason why this conference was ever recognized, because they're two of the most prestigious schools in college football.
Yeah, they're blue bloods. And then, like, for a Kansas State that, or a TCU that beats an Oklahoma and a Texas in a year, and people are like, well, should they be in the playoff or not? Well, they beat these two teams, so yeah, they should be in the playoff. It's not, they only beat Oklahoma and Texas. Like, if OU wins every game or Texas wins every game, then the only game typically they're talking about is, well, they did beat Oklahoma. Oh, and at the time, Iowa State was ranked number 23, so I guess we'll throw that one in there. But it literally is carried by 1 to 2 teams. So
yeah, and I mean, yeah, for him to say that, then on top of that, he tried to piggyback and say that Oklahoma, or this was the assistant commissioner of the Big 12. Did you see where he was trying to say that Oklahoma didn't want to go to the SEC? They were reluctant to go, and they were basically kind of pushed to go because of Texas was leaving.
Yeah, I did, and I don't agree. I think he's just saying stuff. I think he's just, yeah. They didn't want to leave. They really wanted us.
No, Oklahoma wanted out just as much as Texas did, because if Oklahoma didn't want out, they could have stayed and just completely ran through the Big 12 like they have in the past. So honestly, going to the SEC doesn't help them.
It's a
whole lot. Yeah, it makes it a lot harder for them to win. But I think that they were ready for something different than, okay, they won 5 Big 12, 6 Big 12 championships in a row because no one else could really carry anything. And that's almost probably what it would probably go to, the way the Big 12 looks right now. Even adding in the Cincinnati, the Houston, the UCF, the BYUs, those teams aren't going to really, I think, be able to push Oklahoma, and you would be able to push Oklahoma like, at least having Texas there. At least you have somewhat of another blue blood in there to give you some fight every once in a while, maybe every couple of years, 10 years. But the fact that you want to say that a team that has won more Big 12 championships than every other team combined didn't carry your conference is absolutely absurd.
No, I definitely agree. So SEC Media Days, do you know that they allow fans for free?
No, do they really?
Yeah, for free. And just a little correction from last week. I did do the research. It's in Nashville.
Yeah, it's in Nashville. I saw this year's. Next year's in Dallas.
Hey, there you go. Free for, I mean, you're basically media, so you might as well say that. But
yeah, can I get a media pass? Can I ask questions?
Oh, that would be great. I would love your questions. Yeah. So last quick note on NCAA before we hit some of the NFL news, because there's some big things happening in the NFL. Northwestern lost its second head coach for firing. Lost its second because of firing, of bullying, hazing, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a program that was really struggling last year. It's been a while since they've been good, but here's my only got one thought. This is one of the smartest athletic schools out there. Like, the student athletes are very smart. Stop doing stuff that you're not allowed to do. Like, they're gonna know.
Yeah, that's what was, I think, so head scratching about it. It was that the way that Pat Fitzgerald, carried himself, and the way he carried the program, you wouldn't expect something like that to happen. Especially, like you said, when you look at academic wise, it's one of the top academic schools, I guess, that play sports. If you want to throw
Stanford
out there. Dude. They are one of the tops, and so you wouldn't expect something like that to go on. And for Pat Fitzgerald to allow it to go on and have really no repercussions towards the players for allowing it, I think is crazy, especially for a guy that was really looked at almost it was a couple of years ago, whenever Chicago was looking for a new head coach. He was almost the new head coach for Chicago. And so all that, and then 3 days later, head baseball coach gets fired for the exact same thing. You're like, out of all the places, Northwestern's not the one that I would have, picked, especially in the Big Ten. I'm not picking Northwestern. That probably would have been my last pick or it would have been Northwestern.
Yeah,
because
you would much rather Purdue.
The the prestige of Northwestern when it comes to academics wise, and the fact that not just anyone can get into that school, even if they are a scholarship athlete, makes you go, okay, something culture wise went down that no one knew about until someone came forward about it.
And there's not a whole lot of support either for the team outside of who's already there. They're rebuilding a stadium, which does not happen very often in college football. A lot of teams just either renovate or add on seating. They actually decrease their stands pretty significantly. So I think it'll be the minimum of 30,000 coming up, or like 36. Like, it's a small stadium. So not a whole lot of momentum there at Northwestern, but they didn't have a whole lot of momentum last year.
No.
So it definitely is disappointing. So to start off the NFL conversation, I had the trivia question I forgot to ask you last week. Okay. All right. I hope you're ready for this. This is a good one. So can you name me the teams that have won the division with the Cleveland Browns since the Cleveland Browns last won the division?
Say that one more time.
Name the teams that have won the division since the Browns have last won their division.
Every single NFL team?
That in the same division with the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I'm trying to think. Does
AFC North is the division?
But does this go back before the Browns moved to Baltimore? Because this isn't technically the original Browns.
Here's the start of the question that could help you give a time frame. When was the last time the Browns won the division in the AFC North?
I honestly don't know if I could tell you. Oh, I mean,
if you think about it, you'll probably get pretty close.
I'm guessing it has to be like way back, like 60s.
It is 89.
Okay, so it's a lot sooner than I expected.
89 is not 20 years ago.
No. Yeah, no, it's a long time. No, I was expecting what like Jim Brown era.
Yeah. Because the Heartbreak Kids when they were winning.
Brian Snipe.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the question is, name the teams that have won the division since they did.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of teams that have moved out of. I mean, because I'm sure there's been conference realignment, division realignment, and stuff like that.
So you've already gotten the secret part of the teams.
So, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who could possibly have moved out of there. I mean, you got the Ravens, you got the Bengals, you got the Steelers.
Yep, all three of those have won the division more recently.
And so there's at least one or two more.
1, 2, 3 more that have won the division since.
3 more.
The Browns have won the division.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of teams. Indianapolis Colts.
No.
No.
I think they were in the East.
Yeah.
2 of these teams, it's absolutely hilarious that they were in the North. One's an expansion team. It's not the Houston Texans.
Jaguars?
Yes. They won it back-to-back years.
So,
99, 98.
I didn't know they were part of the North.
I know. Yeah. So they won it. And then right after them, the Tennessee Titans also won it. Which would also mean the Houston Oilers won it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The Browns have not won the division since the 80s, and it's 2023. So what is that, like 35 years now? They should have an anniversary shirt at the stadium. It's been 35 years since the last time we won the division.
Yeah. I wouldn't have deduced that those 2 teams would have been in there. I went with the Colts because I was like, well, they were the Baltimore Colts at one time, maybe.
Yeah. I think it was a good guess. You at least knew that it wasn't just the 4 teams that are in the division.
Yeah, no, I knew when you said that. I was like, well, I know there's no way that it's that easy because I know all 3 of those teams have won the division, and all 3 of them have won it recently.
Oh, yeah. Just not the Browns.
Yeah, so I knew it wasn't that easy.
Yeah. Well, so your boy, Aaron Rodgers, this week, he is unhappy. He's voiced his upsetness that the Jets are on Hard Knocks. Now, second trivia question, how many teams that have appeared on Hard Knocks have won the Super Bowl that year? 0. Oh, darn.
So I've never watched Hard Knocks. I would guess it's probably not a lot because the parameters of the way they pick these teams is either first it goes, anyone want to volunteer?
Nope.
Okay, no. Okay, you didn't make playoffs or win your division in the last 3 years or something like that. Okay, you are now up for it, and he knew. No one stepped up and took that. He knew that they were going to go to.
You got
New
to.
York
I mean,
Jets.
People will want to watch. They'll be interested in it. That's probably one of the better storylines from the offseason of controversy and drama. What's it going to do?
Go cry. Cry about it. Yeah, he was like, they forced it upon us. I'm like, yeah, they did.
They definitely did. Don't suck.
What do you expect? You're in New York.
I know, yeah.
The media is going to be way more than it was when you were up in Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Green Bay is a better organization, better team, the media is going to be way more than you probably want because you are a very secretive and quiet guy. Now everything is going to be camera in your face the whole time. 8-9, and they missed the playoffs. That's what I've been saying since he got traded.
Well, there's a good chance. They have a lot of talent around him. So,
they have a really tough schedule too, though, to begin the season.
Yeah. Oh, we talked about that too. Yeah. And like how if it gets off on the wrong foot, then he's going to be saying relax a lot longer than normal.
Yeah. I mean, those first 9 weeks are not easy.
Yeah.
Because you got a bunch of divisional games, and then on top of that, you're playing like the Eagles, the Cowboys, at least the somewhat decent teams in the NFC. You're playing them right off the bat, and then I'm pretty sure you play the Chiefs. Not easy. Not an easy start, especially if you don't have that cohesion going. Yeah, we could see New York go up in flames because they were expecting Super Bowl, and now you may not make playoffs.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. The Chiefs were linked and thought for a little bit there that they were going to get DeAndre Hopkins, which I told you, wow, that's just not fair if they do. And now it looks like he's going to Tennessee to, I think, try to catch a ball from Derrick Henry. I'm not sure. It'll be a trick play. So we're not sure where the ball's going to go yet. But is this a good deal? Is this a good landing spot? What do you think?
I don't think it's a great landing spot. He probably took the most money he could get, and then maybe after those 2 years he'll ring chase. But I think
he's going to be 33 at that point. I think he's done after this contract. I don't think he's going to be productive.
Yeah, you missed the window. You would have waited not even wait. You could have signed with. I think the New England Patriots have more of a playoff hope than you do at Tennessee, and especially with the Ryan Tannehill we saw last year. Yeah, he was injured, but man, if he goes down again, Malik Willis going to throw you the football?
Nope.
Will Levis ain't going to throw you the football.
Well, maybe he'll run it and toss it to him.
Then on top of that, that's where old wide receivers go to die. Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, Julio Jones.
Yep.
All went there and died.
Yeah, they never did anything else. So I do think they're going to be overpaying.
Well, Randy Moss did.
What?
No, was that after his New England stint?
Yeah,
that he went to the Titans. I thought it was right before.
And that was Oakland that you're thinking of.
Yeah, I know it was Oakland. For some reason, I thought it was like They went like Tennessee, Oakland. Okay, never mind. But yeah, no,
that's a great point. I think you should have thought about that and said, you know what, I'm gonna not take that exit. I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, I mean, you're already making how many millions of dollars from the Cardinals already this year? Why not take a $2 or $3 million, $4 million contract from a team like the Chiefs or even the Bills?
Yeah,
to give you a shot at least winning.
Yeah.
Instead of going, I get $13 million this year to go maybe catch passes from Ryan Tannehill or someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. But have we seen the death of top running backs contracts?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There'll still be top running backs, but there will not be top running back contracts outside of rookie contracts.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see them increase anytime soon. I mean, you got those guys that Zeke Elliott signed a big contract, McCaffrey signed a big contract.
Gurley.
Even Gurley signed that massive contract, and none of them. I mean, besides maybe McCaffrey. I mean, they're still out. The rumors. You still got chance to be a really productive guy, but yeah, those guys absolutely killed the free agency market for running backs, and guys like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs are now having to deal with that, and I don't think we'll see them go up because, like I said, the most productive years for a running back is that rookie contract.
Yeah. It is a sad day in NFL football because I think what you're seeing now is so much money go to quarterbacks and defensive guys who go get the quarterback. And then every other position, maybe you get a left guard or tackle that still gets paid pretty premium. But the other positions, even wide receiver, if you're not Tyreek Hill or you're not Stephon Diggs, like you're not these guys, then they're getting the rich are getting richer and the poor are just getting bigger. Like they're just getting more of them that are getting this small to maybe a medium contract. You're just not getting them anymore.
I mean, Christian Kirk did get $19-20 million, so
that's the Jaguars, though. Like
I'm just saying
that type of boneheaded move from the Jaguars, from the Padres, and in baseball. Like you're like, what? Are you sure? Okay. All right. Cardinals, you want to give Steven Matz a 4-year, $44 million? Didn't you just do this with Mike Leake? The same. Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll see.
At least Mike Leake was productive before then. I mean, Matz hasn't been productive. Anyways, but going back to the running back thing, I think it makes it interesting now to see what happens with some of these guys that are out there. Now, say, you got Dalvin Cook and you got Zeke Elliott that are now out there in free agency. And you got two teams that, unless they're wanting to go the young guys, New York got Eric Gray. Las Vegas, you got Zamir White. Unless you're willing to, just give them the go and say, okay, whatever. I don't know if the Giants have that luxury to do that because you just paid Daniel Jones so much money. You don't really have much of an offensive threat outside of Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
So if they went out and maybe signed Zeke Elliott until Saquon decided he was ready to play, I think it would be a smart move just because I think you can get him for real cheap and at least give you a somewhat productive back, even though he has injuries and he has lost a step or so. At least he's going to be able to find the end zone and probably get you 1,000 yards if he ends up having to be the main guy. But, yeah, it makes the makes the running back market even more interesting to see what happens because they say we ain't showing up training camp. And I know Josh Jacobs said a couple months ago that he was willing to sit out for the betterment of running back contracts to try to be that person, but
they're going to have to do something like that, like as a whole, because otherwise it's just sign the franchise tag because that's $10 million a year or something, something like that. And that's better than nothing. And because if you hold out right now, these other guys, you're not going to get that on the market. You're not going to get the 4 years, the 3 years. Your best option right now is unfortunately just a year-by-year deal, and it sucks for some of these really big guys, but that's just where the business of running backs is at. And that's my thought, too, is that's almost where your business of wide receivers is going to be eventually, because I think we're just seeing the start of that. You mentioned, obviously, the guys like Christian Kirk, but even look at guys like Juju. He's not getting paid. Yeah. I mean, you just look at that. It's going to be a huge talking point, I think, eventually. So people just got to watch out for it.
I mean, Saquon did get offered $13 million a year, which he probably should have taken because I don't know if he'll get more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's what McCaffrey is the highest at 16, I think, right now. So, I mean, you're not too far off. Because I know Aaron Jones, restructured his contract and he was making somewhere close to 14. Now it's around the $10 to $9 million range. So, yeah, dude, take the $13 million because you probably won't find. Maybe you'll get an extra $1 million. Okay. But I don't know if they're going to move too much off that number. He's wanting 16 to 17, and I just don't realistically see that happening with the way the running back market is anymore.
Well, that is the bad news right now. Here's the good news. Today, as we record, it is July 17th. Do you know when training camps start?
I'm guessing next week.
Rookies report this week to next week. Veterans are also this week to next week, and full contact practices start by the end of the month. So the bad news is running backs, y'all ain't getting paid or getting long contracts. The good news is for all of us as fans, guess what? As long as your favorite player's on a running back, you're going to get to see him play here soon.
Yeah, as long as you're not a Giants fan right now. I don't know if the Raiders really care because I don't think they expect to compete. But as long as you're not a Giants fan right now, you're excited.
Yeah, you should be excited. And we're going to have all the NFL breakdowns. We're going to have I think this would be something that we should do as we get closer here. We turn the calendar month a little bit, maybe to August. Maybe we'll do it in July. Who knows? We look at even in the NCAA, what are the power, like ranking the conferences of who's the strongest conference, the deepest conference, that kind of stuff. That can be fun, especially with so much realignment. There's going to be a lot of changes when it comes to the divisions, who are obviously our picks. We're going to have that as we get closer to the season. But just know that, guys, it is happening.
And we'll even have fantasy news too.
Yeah, we should.
We always do. Do some fantasy stuff. Yeah. So,
do you already have like a sleeper quarterback or anything like that you're thinking of? Like, he's your guy,
No.
Because I hear a lot of people are on the Anthony Richardson train or the Daniel Jones one for the running.
I'm nowhere close. You listen to any of the draft recap or the draft prep or anything like that, I am absolutely anywhere close being ready to be sold on Anthony Richardson at all. Okay. And I know fantasy-wise is different. He'll probably be running, but does he automatically get the keys to the car? I don't think so.
No. But that ownership in Indy is pretty dumb. So they may force the hand and say, give him the keys. But, sir, he only has a permit. Give him the keys.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy like I think a lot of people are, just because everyone's enamored with the athletic ability. Yeah, awesome and all that stuff. Like we'll get more into this. Yeah, but I'm not that guy. If I'm going fantasy, if I'm taking a rookie fantasy quarterback, it absolutely has to be either the top two, one of the top two guys.
Well, yeah, and they're going to be a backup at best. Like I'm definitely not doing that.
Yeah, and so if that's what you're banking on somewhere in your draft, that you're going to take Anthony Richardson, he's going to lead you to the promised land. I don't think it's going to happen this year, or maybe in the next couple years, or maybe ever.
Yeah, maybe. You don't know. Jalen Hurts took him a couple of years, but he won me a championship.
But I actually have faith in Jalen Hurts.
I know we like him. We're on the outside of everybody else now joining the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Good thing we raised the rates, so ticket prices are more. When you look at MLB, we're almost headed into the trade deadline season. We're looking at this, and so first things first, we had some massive rule changes that happened. We've had over half the year. We've had the All-Star break. We've had a lot of different things happen. How are you feeling about the rule changes?
I think they've been great for the game of baseball. I think what we have seen, the quality of game of baseball has increased compared to what it was over the last 20 years. And it's a lot of it, you look at some of the stuff from the new rules. You've got the highest, steals per game since 1995 at 1.4, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's actually pretty high compared to what it has been in the past. Batting average is up from 243 to 248. Your batting average with putting the ball in play is up from 290 to 297. The whole 9 points. Thank you for getting rid of the shift. And this is all happening with the strikeout rate being higher than it has been. And on pace, if it stays where it is right now, will be the fourth highest in baseball history. But yet averages and everything are up compared to what they have been. But I think the biggest place that we see it is that attendance is up 8% and TV ratings are up 4% since from last year. So I think that's where you see it, that the ticket prices, the tickets are, being sold more. People are, wanting to watch it on TV more now than they were in the last few years. So I think that we're seeing the game become better, more enjoyable for people that, weren't fans of the game, or you're like, oh, I like watching baseball, but I can't stand watching it on TV or whatever. I think it's become more palatable for them, and they're being more entertained because more stuff's happening. We're not taking a whole minute for one guy to throw one pitch.
Yeah. No, I definitely love that. You don't have to step out of the box forever. I love the pace. I've had multiple conversations with people who say, yeah, I just really don't enjoy it. It's just too slow. And then I said this, I've heard other people tell the same people this. Hey, it's different now. It goes quicker. Mm-hmm. It's way more enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. And that's what I love about it. From the going to the ballpark aspect, I think that has been kind of there for minor league baseball for a while. So if you've been to any minor league games, you're kind of used to that 2.5 hour pace already, which is nice. But you'll go and you're like, oh my gosh, this is already over. But for those that are not used to it, and you're going to MLB games in the past, it is different. It feels different. If you're just watching it, it also feels different. It goes quick. It is entertaining. There's constantly something happening. I would say there's something happening even more so than in football. Like football, you got 40-second play clock, and then maybe a timeout. I mean, there's a run up, a halfback dive. Okay, well, we have that too. You have a little fastball down the middle of those taken. Okay, but guess what? Within 20 seconds, we're going to go ahead and throw the ball again, and something else could happen. So it's happening quicker, which I think is great. When I look at the rule changes, the only one I'm still not super big fan of is the pickoff. 2 attempts over disengagements. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that, just because I love steals, and we talked a lot about steals and how important they are to the game, the chess game that is pitching versus hitting versus base running, like all that. But my fear is that they're looking at this and they're making it almost impossible to throw a run around. Like the percentage of caught stealings is so low, and maybe that's okay. We'll figure it out. But that's the one I'm like, I probably would switch that one. There's no shit thing. It's my favorite.
So it's almost kind of went with the trend, though, in baseball, where defensive catchers have become a thing of the past. And
that's true.
Maybe now we'll see that come back a little bit, because now you are going to want a guy that has a better chance of throwing someone out compared to, okay, well, we got Francisco Alvarez catching behind the plate, for the Mets. We know he's not going to throw anyone out, but he'll hit 16 home runs. Well, now maybe once team's stolen, 6-7 bases off you in one game, and you're one of the top teams in, allowed steals, maybe things will start changing to where you go, okay, maybe we got to rethink stuff defensively and go that way. I mean, look at Hine from the Rangers. The dude, on top of being one of the best offensive catchers this year, is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. And so maybe we'll start seeing the shift back to that, because, over the last how many years, it's been, I mean, you don't really have much of defensive catchers. You had Yachty and a few other, Martin Maldonado, guys like that. But Maldonado could never really hit the routes out of a barn. At least Yachty was somewhat offense productive, except for maybe the last couple of years where, age started getting to him and offensive numbers had dipped a little bit. But yeah, maybe we'll start seeing defense become more important than what it has been over the last few years, and we'll see, stuff like that happening.
I think that's what you're seeing also in this pace of play that has increased. How insanely important it is to have good defense, because anytime you have to get, instead of 3 outs in an inning, you got to get 4, maybe 5 because of an error, because you're rushed, you weren't ready. Like, it matters so much more, because I don't have time to slow down as a pitcher, reset, and say, hey, it's okay, I'm going to get this next out. Like, no, you're literally thinking about it as you're pitching. Oftentimes some of these guys are, and I think you're seeing that in some of the blow-up innings and stuff like that. So I do like how the Players Association is asking for a couple more seconds. I would say no more than 2 seconds on that pitch clock come playoff time. I'd be fine with that. I think that'd be an easy rule to do. Just say, hey, we're going to do 2 seconds for the playoff for both scenarios, just to give you that extra breath maybe. But I wouldn't want more than that, because I still don't want a 3.5, 4 hour game. I just don't.
Yeah, so I'm okay if they keep it the way it is, just because.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, we're seeing it the way it is now. These guys have had to go through this, and now you add a couple more seconds. I mean, is it really going to help that much for those pitchers for an extra second to be able to take a breath or something? I don't know. I think that we're seeing what it is. These guys are getting used to it now. Eventually, by the end of the season, hopefully most of them are used to it, and maybe it may take them a full calendar year for it to happen. But I think changing the rules right before the, just specifically for the playoffs, something like that, I think it's kind of just I don't know, arbitrary. Why try it? Maybe try it out during the spring training and see what happens there at the beginning of next year, then maybe implement it in a year or so. But I mean, if it's working now, I don't know if you really should change it.
No, I'm right there with you. That's the only tweak I would do with the clock, though. Yeah. I don't want to see 5-10 seconds ever.
No.
Also, like on the presentation, there are some of the presentations that are doing good. Bally Sports is not good. Go figure, because they're going bankrupt. But I don't like that they put the stupid clock up there so early. I don't need to see 15. Show me at 5. I don't want to be distracted by it when the game's happening. That's more feedback.
Or at least show it at like 10, because the batter has to be set and ready at 8.
Well, show me at 8. But he's gonna be like, I just give me the. Oh, it's a. You
he may not. You never know. We've seen it happen.
Yeah. So I want to throw this out there. Which team are you more worried about coming back down to earth? We have, of course, the Cincinnati Reds. They were on fire since then, lost 4 in a row. They're tied right now, I think, in the 8th inning, so they still have a chance to win today and end this losing streak. But they've lost 4 in a row. The San Diego Padres have now lost 3 in a row after seeming like they were going to right the ship. Still 10 games back. Arizona, everyone's darling, your darling, has now lost 4, and that's 2 in 8. Those 3 teams were all – okay, we're going to take the Padres out. They were starting to come alive, but I'm going to go and take them out because they didn't have a winning record. But of the other 2 teams, which one are you more worried about?
I would say the Reds, just because at least with Diamondbacks you're going to have 2 guys at the front of that rotation that are going to be able to at least pitch good enough each outing to give you that chance at winning, where the Reds it's not quite that with Hunter Green and Lodolo and those guys, those young arms. They're not quite there yet and ready. So, yeah, I would say that they are definitely the team that I think we're kind of seeing it now. We'll come back down to earth, and it may not look pretty for them once they hit back to earth.
Yeah, it may not.
Yeah.
I think that this team at the end of the year will look at 76-ish wins. 76, 80. I think that's a successful season. You can't look at this team and say, because this is a year early. I think you'd hope that not maybe next year, but the year after that, Baltimore is where they're at. Like what Baltimore looks like right now, winning 8 in a row. They are the hottest team in baseball. Dude, they're playing lights out, and they are on the heels of the Tampa Bay Rays, who are only 1 game above them. Do you feel like the Rays can hold off?
I think eventually they will. I think pitching, second half of the year, pitching becomes even more prevalent than it did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into the rat race of it all at the end of the halfway, trying to get playoff position, I think the Rays have better pitching than what the Orioles have. I just don't know. We've seen Grayson Rodriguez get called up a couple times, sent back down this year, and he pitches lights out in AAA, but when it comes back up to the majors, he'll have maybe one good start here and there, and the rest of those starting pitchers for the Orioles just aren't great. Yeah. They're they've done good enough this year for them to win games, but when it comes crunch time towards the end of the season, I just don't know if they will be able to do it. I think they'll still make playoffs, but I don't know if they'll be able to topple the Rays. I think the Rays are kind of seeing come back down to earth for them too. The way they started out, and they were so far ahead of everyone. I think we're starting to see them come back, and those 2 pitching injuries at the beginning of the year definitely hurt hurt them a lot. And then McClanahan was having some issues here and there. He seems like he's kind of got things going back again. So, yeah, I still think they'll win the division, just because I don't know if the Orioles have the pitching to do it.
Yeah. That'll be the question. But we have the deadline coming up, and they could make a move. Hey, there's going to be lots of –
very well could.
I don't think there'll be a whole lot of aces on the move this offseason, but could you see a Nationals making a Mets making a Scherzer trade over there? The wild card, they have not been linked at all, but I'm just saying prospects, yes, if that's what they're looking for. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they would make that type of trade. I think a guy maybe like a Marcus Stroman would be probably more in their wheelhouse. A guy that's going to be in a smaller contract, and I think he's a free agent after this year. Mm-hmm. Don't have to give up, really any of the big name prospects, maybe a couple mid-tier guys. to get him, I think probably would work more in their favor. Maybe a Lucas Giolito. Yeah, Giolito last year, numbers weren't great. Look at the numbers this year. Giolito is actually pitching pretty good. And so I think he gets – so maybe one of those guys, maybe not be the Max Scherzer name, but someone that can come in and help steady a young rotation. Maybe making a move like that, they could push the Rays even more and maybe eventually take that division. But I still think it's a year out. But this is kind of what I said at the beginning of the year, is if you can get those young offenses going, there's two teams that I named. It was the Diamondbacks and the Orioles. If they got those young guys going, they were going to be a contention for a playoff team. And we're seeing it right now. Those young guys are going. They got the, at least the Diamondbacks, they've got two solid starters now. If you can get those young guys going and maybe get another starter in there. Yeah, I think we're seeing some of these young teams finally catching fire like we expected, once the young prospects became what they could. And I think it's fun seeing a couple different teams that we aren't, typically used to seeing compete over the last, 10 years.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. And my hope is that we have more playoff baseball on the East Coast and Midwest, because then it's cold, it's not hot. No offense to your Dodgers, but I'm tired of seeing hot playoff games. It's so annoying to me. It should be hoodies, it should be cold, it should be chilly.
I agree.
Yeah. Part of that, I think, is growing up, the teams that were dominating the playoffs were East Coast, Midwest teams. They weren't. Yeah. I mean, now it's been the Dodgers, the Astros recently, in Atlanta, and so you're having the teams that it's warmer outside. But all right, so the last big thing is, where do you think? I mean, Ohtani trade details is the last question we'll go out with. Is they're laying down the parameters of what it will look like to listen for a trade. And when you look at the teams that are out there, the Rays have somehow been linked because they have prospects. This isn't happening. Can we go ahead and mark off the Rays? Like, he's not going to end up in Tampa Bay, right?
I mean, I don't think so, but I think there has to be a possibility that they could make a run if they are willing to give up guys knowing that he's not going to re-sign. If they are going all in for that World Series push, I could see them possibly doing something like that to go, okay, this is our best bet. We throw him in there with McClanahan. We have the best 1-2 punch when it comes to playoff time. Pitching-wise, you're having crazy years with Wander Franco, Yandy Diaz, and all these younger guys. Offensive-wise, this may be our one shot.
Well, if that happens, I'm going to call it now that something bad will happen for the stadium in Tampa Bay. Like, it just roof will have damage or something, like, to where they can't play there. Because guess what? Like, they're going to have the MLB would like, I'm sorry, we're having the best player in baseball go there. Can we veto this? Let me call David Stern real quick. Hey, can we veto a trade like you guys did way back in the day? Because we don't want this team having the best player.
I mean, at least it would be only for a half a year.
That's true, but man, that would be brutal. It'd be so brutal. If they did that, they should have to wear the Devil Ray uniforms. At least give us something better.
Yeah.
We have them, the Dodgers, Giants, Yankees, Mariners, a little bit have been linked. Is there any other team that you see could be a dark horse for this?
I don't think any of these really small market teams, besides maybe the Rays, who have that legit chance, to win the World Series. I don't know if they would make the trade. I know I've seen people try to float out there the Reds, they make a trade, you get Ohtani there, playoff push, the Orioles, someone like that. I don't think that they are willing to give up their prospects that they have, built to get them to this point where they're a year away from being, a legit team. Competing. I guess maybe you could throw the Orioles are, somewhat there now as a competing team, but I don't think they're willing to throw away some of those prospects, especially if you're Baltimore. You've got the deepest farm system in baseball right now with the number one prospect in baseball in Jackson Holliday. There's no way you trade him for Shohei Ohtani, not because you're trading for Shohei Ohtani, because the fact that Shohei Ohtani is 99% not resigning with you. There's maybe a 1% glimmer of hope that you maybe we were able to convince him being here half a year. He's not resigning with you.
Yeah.
So you don't want to give up those young prospects that could potentially be cornerstones of your team going forward, especially with a guy like Jackson Holiday. I mean, the kid's 19 years old, already in Double-A, his first full season of baseball. And I saw a thing where teams pitched around him with runners on second and third and no outs in the 9th inning, so they didn't have to face him in the 9th inning.
Wow.
In Double-A, 19-year-old kid. And
I did hear about that too. I was like, wow.
Yeah, 14th game in Double-A or 14th plate appearance in Double-A, and you're already pitching around, kid.
Too soon.
I think, I mean, or it just shows you that he's that good.
He was very good beforehand. I'm just, oh man, we'll see.
So, I think those teams, I think the Dodgers and I think the Giants are probably the most realistic possibilities. I think the Yankees could throw their hat in there, but
they don't have the prospects.
Yeah, you're going to trade Volpe, you're going to trade Peraza, everyone likes to lord over Jason Dominguez because the guy is, 6'5", and he kind of has like the look of the Aaron Judge or whatever, but the guy's batting .207 in Single-A right now. Does he have that much pull when it comes trade-wise? Probably not.
That one is cool.
And so maybe they do sell their whole farm and hope that in convincing him to stay, it would be a Yankee thing for them to do. I mean, it wouldn't be surprised.
They could roll out the money for it.
Yeah, and so maybe they are able to convince him, but there is a big aspect that he is not wanting to play on the East Coast. He wants to stay on the West Coast, be closer to Japan. And
yeah, that is just a replay of one of the best comments in the chat. We're not going to talk about the Yankees. We'll just put that. Thanks.
So I just don't see it happening. And I think the Dodgers, Giants probably the two most realistic possibilities, and I just don't know if he gets traded. I think
it's a tall order.
Yeah, I think Artie Moreno is too proud to make a deal.
Yeah, and to Tampa Bay, I see it happening. It's across the country. It's to a team that nobody really cares about, and you're going to get a good prospect. So hopefully it's Tampa Bay, but I hope it's not Tampa Bay. But the good news is he would be out of LA Angels, and that is just not a good place for playoff baseball because it just doesn't happen. So
nope.
Well, what an episode, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you're going to come back next week because Monday we're going to have another podcast, the W Sports Podcast, live every Monday afternoon, evening, 6:30-ish, unless something changes, and sometimes it does.
I've got one big shout-out real quick.
All right, let's go.
Shout-out to Casey Poe, friend of the podcast.
Right, I saw. Yeah.
Committed last Wednesday to Alabama. So congrats to him on that. I mean,
big deal.
What if going to Alabama, play some football for arguably the best college football coach. Mm-hmm. Big deal for a kid from small town Texas. So big shout out to him for that, and it'll be great.
Huge deal. I mean, you can't even make a wrong decision at that point. Where who he was choosing from, man, it was good, and it looked like he was leaning that way. So it was cool to see him sign after he'd been on the podcast. What a cool moment for him. Yep. So, well, till then, if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching, and we appreciate you all coming to hang out with us today. Till then, we'll see y'all next week.
See ya.